Hey folks, Marcel back again with The Pulse. I appreciate you guys watching today. It's been tough to break through that YouTube algorithm, so please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are notified. I don't normally start out like that. I don't normally talk about that, but it's really gotten to the point where I've seen views steadily decline, yet the click-through rate remains very, very high. So there's interest, the watch rate of the video, the watch times of the videos that I'm posting are very high, yet I keep hearing about this filtering and downranking going on from YouTube. And certainly it's frustrating. So I do want to go out of my way to thank you guys that are still watching. I want to talk about the many people who right now are wrong and have been wrong about NMN. Part of those are ourselves here, our viewers here, who don't take the ban seriously, or the potential ban, or the economic implications that we're already facing from FDA's attempts to ban, because we're not yet quite there, right? They state they haven't taken final action, yet they've taken a number of economic actions already that have been talked about often on this channel. But where a lot of viewers get it wrong in the comments is they say, well, we'll just take something else. You know, just take niacin, or just take this or that. But NMN has a track record that is incomparable. There's a reason that Metro Biotech, David Sinclair, the FDA have teamed up to try to take NMN off the market as a supplement. And it's not because it's not successful or not effective. If anything, this should show people and prove to people the effectiveness of NMN and why this supplement is so unique. Don't just take it from me. Take it from the over 10,000 people who take NMN regularly that watch this channel, and the millions of people around the world. In fact, as I've stated, David Sinclair has recently said that it's a $2.5 billion industry. So make no mistake, there's a reason why they've selected NMN. And it's not because you could just go take something else and get the same feeling or the same results that you're getting with NMN. That view is just wrong. And to see that, when I see that in the comments, I just sort of shake my head and say, man, these people are just wrong. And another reason they're wrong is they won't stop at NMN. Again, don't take my word for it. I've talked to executives in the supplement industry. And when I went to Washington, I met with a lot of NPA members, which I am a member at this channel, guys. And by the way, DoNotAge, the supplements that I take, and I have a discount code for, they are also now members. And there are not enough members of NPA yet. There are great numbers of supplement companies who sell NMN in the US that have not yet joined NPA and have not contributed to the lawsuit against FDA. So I encourage companies out there to please join, talk about it, spread the word, put the onus on someone else. Take the pressure off yourselves and step up and support the effort against the FDA on their stance on NMN, where I clearly think they're wrong. Now, why did they choose NMN? I was asked this question by an executive in the supplement industry last year off the record, and I said, you may know better than I. I have a feeling that if you look at the entire picture of NMN, who's championed NMN the most? Who has the most to benefit by Metro Biotech winning this case for NMN? And I think it's clearly David Sinclair. And if you look at David Sinclair, he's very charismatic. And that charisma, the people at the FDA are not immune to that type of thing. You may think of a government agency as someplace you just send paperwork, right? Fill out the forms. But there are people over there. There are directors. There's people in charge. And a guy like David Sinclair gets the privilege of meeting with them and gets to talk to them and ask them to help him make aging a disease, help him make things drugs that aren't drugs. NMN was the first one, the first candidate that they chose. It's interesting, talk about people being wrong about NMN. David Sinclair talked about NMN as a supplement for years. And then he said, I have a company that's developing some super NAD boosters. You guys remember this, the super NAD boosters. And we all waited to see what those were going to be, but they never materialized. When he first talked about MIB626, people thought, oh, this must be one of those super NAD boosters. But then the letters went out from the FDA where they reversed their position to two huge supplement companies, billion-dollar companies, and said, no, it no longer meets the definition, even though they'd already acknowledged their submissions of paperwork to sell NMN, and they started to sign up grocery store chains to sell NMN. So David Sinclair apparently was wrong, or maybe they didn't get the same results from the tests when they tested these super NAD boosters that they were getting with NMN. So it turns out NMN is actually the NAD booster, the super NAD booster that he was referring to, because that's the one that he's made a play for, and that's the only one he's talked about extensively in public. So this should tell a lot of you how important NMN is to the drug industry, to the FDA. And I did say yes to this person, this executive. I think it's the charisma of David Sinclair. I think he made some promises. I think someone over there has stars in their eyes for him. You know, he's been on 60 Minutes. He's been on a Forbes list of most influential people in the world. He's a pretty powerful guy, and they are not immune to that at the FDA. As a matter of fact, when they're thinking about, well, you know, what kind of job opportunities could potentially open up if I help this guy now and his company gets bought by Merck or Pfizer, et cetera, you know, what kind of opportunities can open up for me down the road? As big as the supplement industry is now, it doesn't lend itself to those opportunities. And they're probably, in my view, not run maybe the way in multi-billion-dollar industries are run, or businesses are run like pharmaceutical companies. They're businesses. If you stop and think about these big drug companies, they're pitched to Congress, they're pitched to the FDA or to the public as these well-meaning, important medical institutions or these medical entities. Yet they're really just businesses, and we know they're businesses for profit because they advertise to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year just in the U.S. That's the only place where they're allowed to advertise pharmaceutical drugs besides New Zealand, right? They're the only countries where you can even advertise, and they advertise extensively. And they're very polished commercials. Those commercials are not designed by scientists and doctors, right? The people in charge of these drug companies, as you can imagine, are business people. And they're making a business play right now. And they control the FDA to a large extent. And the FDA talks out of both sides of its mouth. The FDA goes to Congress a couple weeks ago and says, supplement industry is too large. It's too big. We can't regulate it. Ironically, they regulate the drug industry quite well, and they protect the drug industry quite well. Yet they can't regulate the supplement industry? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So they've clearly chosen their partner. Their partner is the drug industry. And NMN, as powerful as it is, well, they're just trying to absorb it into the industry that they control. They help out the drug industry. They work together side by side. They are partners to the drug industry. And so when the drug industry, when any drug company says, hey, we want to claim this substance, that's where it goes. Ironically, the agency doing this, the FDA, has plenty of bandwidth to ban a substance. Matter of fact, they've economically, as I said, banned NMN by taking it off Amazon, by taking it out of Walmart, making Google crack down on video channels like this, as I mentioned in the beginning. So for an agency that is powerless, they sure have a lot of power when they want to wield it. When they want to have power, when they want to have reach, when their existence is threatened, when their priorities are threatened, then they suddenly miraculously have all kinds of influence and power. One letter sent to a couple huge supplement companies caused this entire mess. Yet they claim they're powerless to regulate. It's just nonsense. They're lying to Congress, literally. They have plenty of power. They just don't exercise it. And that should tip people off. Why? Why are they not exercising it? Well, the bottom line is there is a trend. There is a trend towards people eating healthier foods, people exercising properly. Yes, there are a lot of junk food companies out there. We know that. But there is a trend. If you look over the last 10, 20 years, there's been a trend towards healthier food options. And supplements have grown in popularity at the same time as that. So the writing's on the wall. Eventually, this is where things are going. People are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They want healthier options. I believe That's what's going on with the drug industry. They're recognizing this and they're trying to slowly reshape themselves. And as a business entity, I talked about how these are businesses, right? These are corporations for profit. They're just recognizing that there's a lot of profit to be made on the supplement side. And so it just makes sense for them to encroach on that and to use their people at the FDA to encroach on the supplement industry. And the way they're doing it is to discredit the supplement industry. And they discredit it and say it's not regulated, but it's the FDA's job to regulate it. So what they're really telling Congress is, we're not doing our jobs. They're literally going to Congress and stating that they're not doing their jobs. And this is completely unacceptable. So where have we ended up? And there are dangers where we've ended up, by the way. There are pitfalls here, and I'm going to talk about those lastly here. We've ended up in the judiciary branch. We've ended up taking them to court. And I say we because, as I said, I'm now a member of NPA. Therefore, by extension, a member of this lawsuit, a party of this lawsuit. Why do we know that the FDA cares about lawsuits? We know this because Politico conducted an investigation that they published last year about the FDA. And during this investigation, they interviewed, off the record, didn't share names, but they interviewed former and current agents at the FDA. And what they heard was the food supply in the U.S. is broken, and the FDA cannot fix it because they fear the lawsuits that would come from the food industry. So what does the food industry go and tell the judges in these lawsuits? They say, this is what the public wants. The public wants these foods. I believe they're wrong. They're increasingly wrong because people don't want to be bombarded with unhealthy options. They want healthier options to an increasingly growing extent. But they're winning these cases with the judge because they're able to convince them that the people's rights need to be protected, the rights to the foods that they want, the chemically addictive, unhealthy, cancer-causing, disease-causing foods. So if what people want matters so much, why can't we protect supplements now? People want them. There's a growing demand for supplements. People want them. So that's why I believe we've ended up in court, because people in the supplement industry and the NPA in general have sat back and looked and said, wait a minute, look at the landscape here. FDA is broken. The food supply is broken. They protect that food supply. They protect those food companies. Why? Because they're afraid of lawsuits. Okay, they're attacking us, the supplement industry, our new superstar supplement, NMN. So let's take them to court. And now the judiciary is going to be bombarded with a new argument. Not that people want fast food and we need to protect that food supply at all costs, but that people want healthier options. They don't want to have to buy it as an expensive drug, available by prescription only. People need and deserve and want a way to overcome their addictions to sugar, processed foods, and excessive fatty foods. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And I do think it's important to keep talking about it. I think those people here who I mentioned at the beginning who are wrong to say, well, you could just take something else. They're also wrong when they say I shouldn't be talking about it so much. They're wrong when they say it can't spread around the world. The EMA, which is the European version of the FDA, has a stated policy of cooperation with the FDA. So if the FDA successfully bans something, you can bet that the EMA will ban it as well. And this will spread throughout the world. I don't think it'll reach Asia. Matter of fact, I don't think FDA is going to win. So if you're in Europe right now, the fear is if they do, that ban will trickle over here as well. Those corporations and that supply, you're not immune to what's going on over there because the EMA has a stated global alignment policy where one supports the decision of the other. And that's why we're wrong to assume that NMN doesn't matter. That's why we're wrong when we assume we could just take something else, that they won't then come after that too. And we're wrong to think, hey, we're in Europe, we're immune from this. So it's time to fight for what's right. Instead of dwelling too much on what's wrong, we should be aware of it. We should know how we're going to go about it. But it's time to fight and win. It's time to protect NMN. And that's why I'm talking about it so much. And that's why I don't listen to the voices that say I shouldn't talk about it or they could just take something else. So again, I appreciate you guys watching. I'll be back again soon.